Today is the Pumpkinvine Ride. It's June 16th, 2012, and I am with Larry Neff and John Yoder at Abshire Park, having just finished the Pumpkinvine Ride, and Larry and John having just finished sections of the trail, and one hell of a big day. How many people pre-register or registered total? Do you have any idea?
1,240.
1,240 is the latest count.
Right.
Super. Now, is that a record?
Yes.
That is a record. And this is how many years for the ride?
This is 13th year.
13th year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for taking the time to do this. Thank you, more importantly, for the last 20 years. How many years since you put your big toe into the...
Since 1990, pretty much.
1990. 22 years. Mm-hmm. Larry, when did you get involved with all of this?
Probably the mid-90s, somewhere in there, 94. Well, I've been with the park department when long ago they had it as our master plan back in the late 70s. But nobody could do... Actually, we had the excursion and the railroaders use a little. Mm-hmm. And they'd kind of backed out, the county park department, of participating until John came along. Mm-hmm. And actually, you wrote a grant with the park department in about 1990 or 89, somewhere in there.
Yes.
And the grant was to what group?
Actually, it was to purchase the trail to, well, you can say it, Elkhart
Wasn't
County.
you talking about the...
Hometown.
Hometown, Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Hometown, Indiana.
Hometown, Indiana.
Way back then.
I wrote one for Goshen and one for Elkhart County Parks. I got both of them, but Phil Warner figured out some way that the money was never granted.
Well, that's not quite true.
Till later.
Yes.
I mean, for 10 years after that,
at least
it wasn't
10
granted.
years.
And then Phil Warner died, and somebody discovered the money was there.
Actually, from I want to say Connorsville, I believe, a reporter called me one day on the phone and said, "You know, I've been going over the records of the state, and you folks, Elkhart County Parks, has money sitting down here in Indianapolis." And I said, "Whatever for?" And she said, "Why, it's for a trail called Punpkinvine, I think." And I said, "What? Are you kidding?" And she says, "Well, it's going to be turned into the state if you don't do something." So we got on our horse and did something. But it was too late because the Friends had already purchased what the grant was for.
Yeah.
And,
So they used it in Oxbow Park.
And build a paved trail out in the...
Build a circular... Mm-hmm. So.
Oh, Oxbow. Now, is that part of the mill race?
No,
or
Oxbow.
It's near it?
Oxbow County Park is about halfway between Goshen and Elkhart. And ironically,
Goshen, Elkhart.
Now it's called the Heartland Trail. An off-road trail connects, what street is that? In Elkhart, all the way into Goshen, which connects to this trail. So really, we're like a sag stop halfway between is this paved trail within the... It's a 225-acre county park, so there's bathrooms and flush toilets and all this stuff. And we get quite a few bikers that come in there.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It turned into quite a beneficial thing, really.
It was, yeah, but, it's one of those things where politics got involved.
I saw Phil Warner's name on the highway sign when I was driving east, and I began thinking, yes, I have to ask John about Phil Warner and the good old days.
Good old days.
Oh, that's what they call them, the good old days. You had forgotten that. Those were the good old days.
Oh, gee.
Roughly, give me sort of the theme of how things turned out. You started out in 90. In 90, you bought the first land, or
no? We just that was when we started our organization, or started talking about the trail. And I remember you came to one of the first meetings. We had a couple of public meetings, and we had kind of an ad hoc group that worked together. So it wasn't until like 92, 93 that we incorporated and bought the trail then in 93.
And from where did you get your funding?
We had, you go over there and look on the
plaque. On the plaque, okay.
There's a list of names of founders who gave $500 each, and that got us up to 60,000. And Penn Central wanted 100,000, and we borrowed another $40,000 in order to pay off Penn Central, to pay for the land.
And how many miles did you get for that?
The 16.
16 miles.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have to tell you, I stopped at one of the lemonade stands, and there were two older women, and I just asked them, they'd obviously been in the neighborhood for a while, what did you think when you first heard about it? And they said, oh, negative this and that, and we didn't know what to expect, and we heard everything, and you didn't know what to know. But then said, but now we use it all the time because it's not on the highways. And I no sooner heard say that, but some Amish came by the lemonade stand. So
That's been a pretty common thing, that people who were opposed are now, big supporters.
we see that in other trails, and it just goes to show. Here it's an interesting constituency,
Yes.
an identified constituency, but it could be just the English anywhere would object, and yet they ride.
No, that's right. They're no different than a lot of other adjacent landowners. Yeah.
One of the things that you hear in trails and trail groups is you need to do a demonstration. Show them what it is,
Yes.
and then they will get more backing and support. And I think it would be remiss if not to mention, in the mid-'90s, the National Park Service perhaps gave us one of the first inkling of that, and money to pursue it, I would say, through Rory.
Yeah.
They gave us
$10,000.
$10,000. We did about 150 feet.
And it's right over there.
Yeah.
The fence is still there, and some of the trees we planted.
The trees. We planted trees, and we made. And then the first section, that's gravel, became the second version
Right.
of a demonstration section.
I remember it went south of here a few hundred yards, and then it stopped at a bridge or something like that. But it was at least showing you could walk to the bridge and walk back. And
Yeah.
That was the goal, and I think that's still set in trail groups, that you give them a taste. And,
Yes.
Yeah.
But it was extremely fortunate that the city of Goshen owned this park, which was adjacent to the Pumpkinvine, because otherwise we'd had another battle. And so we only owned anything north of State Road 4. That's what we bought. South of State Road 4, the park department had it. And so, just who knew that it would have happened that way, but that's what happened. So now that part that goes south swings back around and connects to the trail that goes to Elkhart.
Goes all the way.
to Elkhart.
Yeah, so you need to ride that sometime.
Okay, so when you go from Elkhart to Shipshewana on a continuous trail of one sort or
When it's
another.
done. When it's done.
When it's done, it's not quite done yet.
It's not done.
It's all been bid out. Well, going to be bid out, we hope. Either in August will be the Middlebury and the tunnel, and then in the fall, we hope, will be the connector in Middlebury.
Thinking back, after Phil Warner passed away, you found money, or the news person from Connersville found money. You got original donors and a loan and bought the land. What happened after that?
Well, after we bought the land, there was opposition from Farm Bureau, local Farm Bureau people, who claimed that Penn Central didn't own anything. So there was no way we could get any funding, federal state funding, with a cloud on our title. So we set about, through Jim Brotherson and Jim Byron, to quiet the title. And that meant we first did the first 1 3/4 here, and we sued everybody on both sides of the trail to prove that they owned it, because we thought we did. We won. So that was the first. Then we had a huge lawsuit from US 20 to Shipshewana, again, to prove our ownership.
Oh, wow.
Sued over 100 people. We knew we didn't own everything in there, but we owned almost everything. And that one was then, that lawsuit was then, I'm not sure what the term is, conjoined with the state class action suit against Penn Central.
Yes, okay.
They were with a judge who was just extremely favorable to Farm Bureau. Everything their lawyer said, he just shake his head. Well, when somebody else entered into the lawsuit, which made it possible to request a change of venue, and that's what we did. We got a new judge, Stephen David, who was just very think he's on the Supreme Court now, isn't he?
I don't know.
But he was much fairer.
That was Boone County.
Yeah, and actually they went ahead and settled our part of it, apart from the class action then, and we won. So we've had 7 or 8, 9, 10 different lawsuits to quiet title. Either somebody sued us or we sued them, and in most cases we won. We won all the ones that were contested, but there were some that we simply had an agreement through mediation. We had 2 or 3 of those where we agreed to swap land or do something, mainly swapping land.
Elkhart Parks received this land sort of as a when you went to acquire the land, they were the ones that got the money to build the trail, correct? Or
Right.
Okay.
They got
they got TE money.
TE money.
Okay, and
RTP,
stimulus, Indiana State Trails grant, and Lilly Foundation grants. A whole battery of things.
a whole battery of them in there. But I'm thinking that all the rest would stand on its own, but TE would force the not-for-profit to have to work with the government group,
Exactly.
the parks. And so the TE sort of forced your hand on that, but it works out because you have the maintenance equipment anyway. You have lawn cutters, and that's good because it looks great. The lawn cutting does.
we provide. I mean, the value of the land became the local match,
Yes.
but it turns out it wasn't
Not always.
quite as we had hoped in terms of because they want cash up front. They don't.
Yeah.
And then they assume that your local match is going to be cash, and you can use that for the upfront engineering and all that. Well, we don't have. We're giving them land. That's
Right.
And so they had to jump through a lot of hoops
Right.
to.
So we got an Indiana State Trails grant that paid for engineering, a huge amount of engineering. Like stimulus is 100%, engineering is 100% on the LPA, the local public agency. So we had to pay 100% of that bridge's design and engineering, all that. And so the Indiana State Trails grant paid for that.
Oh, wow.
Otherwise, we would never have had the cash to do all the things, jump through all the hoops that NDOT has
They put in.
laid out, put in place, In fact, we were rejected on the tunnel by the Middlebury grant. Really, we weren't, Elkhart County Parks was not to build the tunnel, it was to be originally built on the Middlebury grant to the TE money. And NDOT refused, said we can't do it, you don't have enough money, the engineering is way beyond anybody's, we just can't do it. And so stimulus came along, we applied for it, they came out with that same attitude, said we aren't doing it. And I remember Dawn Crow, Green 3.
Yes.
And we were meeting, the two of us, with some NDOT people, and she said, now stop right there. We are building this trail, and we're building a tunnel right here.
So
And they went, well, she said, let's talk about building a tunnel, not to stop us. We're building a tunnel.
So we're forever grateful for George Bush, who put the economy into the tank and required a stimulus to get us out. Otherwise, no tunnel.
Yeah,
No
that's
tunnel.
right, no tunnel.
Exactly.
What are some of the sort of, if you were to go high, low, what sort of years would you put high and low points?
Well, I think that one of the high points was certainly getting the first section done in Goshen.
Okay, that almost 2 mile section to the road out there.
Right.
Okay.
That was a
And the
big
city
deal.
of Goshen Parks did that.
Right.
And
So I think that was a turning point to getting more public
about what
support.
year was that?
It was 1999 it was done.
99.
And then because we had that, then we started the bike ride in 2000. I think it was 2000 or 2000. Anyway,
Close to it, yeah.
we didn't.
People, is this the 13th year?
Mhm.
Okay, so it'd be 99.
Yeah, so, and then that generated money to support the trail, among other things, but that's been very significant for the last 10 years.
And that was a section that Phil warned, and we had early on opposition was in that section.
I would say the low point was, to me, was when they consolidated that lawsuit, took it took it away from us locally, that was really bad. We didn't know what was going to happen. But eventually, it turned out okay, but at the time it was pretty grim, as I recall.
I remember thinking we were under attack because we were doing mediations, lawsuit. All this was all the legalities. We were spending a lot of money on attorney fees. It seemed like we wouldn't get out of that hole for a while.
Right. Yeah, we've spent more money on attorneys than we had to buy the trail.
Wow. Amazing.
And
Amazing.
from my perspective, it was a total waste of time and money. I mean, they had they spent minimum amount of time with the title company to look at what they had, we could have avoided almost all of it.
We had strange lawsuits, like after we got the T grant between Middlebury and Shipshawana, just actually in the city limits of Middlebury, an adjoining landowner tried they did take half the trail, and we went to mediation to cut that back to really a quarter of the trail. I guess we gave up the fry. Yeah. Just when we thought we were home free, we even had the grant. It went through all kinds of hoops and hurdles. Here comes another lawsuit at us, out of the blue, and we spent a lot of money fighting that. Just ridiculous. And I think, I hate to say this, but I almost feel gun shy that somebody out there is lurking around, waiting for an opportunity to, well, either that or an INDOT, to do something to us. I feel paranoid after.
I can understand that. I can understand that, why people would think that.
Yeah, so I would say, in general, the law, the whole legal situation is one of the low points.
The plan is now that particular State Highway 4, is to be resurfaced. Bids go out for the resurfacing this fall, October.
Okay.
And we've convinced them to participate as a partner on building a trail. And they will pay for construction and construction engineering, the inspection of that trail. And the county park does all the engineering of the trail. And to do that, there is no right-of-way. So it's a 4-lane section of road. They're taking the far east lane of traffic out of automobile vehicular traffic,
right,
and putting a trail on top of it.
And will there be some bollards or a curb?
It'll be a curb. Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be a raised curb trail, 10 feet wide, heading for the Dairy Queen. And then at the Dairy Queen, that was part of the mediation that the Friends group had made, is from that point around the parking lot through the woods where the limestone chipping was to connect to the pavement.
Well,
We call that the 500 East.
the
It's
500.
500 feet to that point.
Oh.
Approximately. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So INDOT's doing it. And we've got a lot of hurdles to cross before that becomes a reality. It's to be bid in October to do this work for next year with that resurfacing project. We're hoping it goes.
Punpkinvine turns over land to government to be developed.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about an advisory group. Will the Punpkinvine group go out of business?
Well, yeah, the advisory group consists of the 4 public agencies that own the trail now, manage the trail: Goshen, Elkhart County Parks, Middlebury, and Shipshawana. And then we also participate with that. And part of our mission is to be sure that the trail is maintained. I mean, to me, it would be a worst case scenario to go to all this trouble and then there not be funding to help maintain the trail. And as you know, the local governments are under tremendous financial pressure to cut back, and and so they don't have a lot of money to do more parks. So our group feels we would like to figure out a mechanism whereby we would help with maintenance. And
I can tell you this, just by your existence, you can do that, because you can acquire money that's private money
Right.
that they can't. They can get government money that you can't get.
Well,
And-
the rides today
Yeah.
is a good example. Whatever money we raise goes into our treasury, and along with with membership dues, corporate sponsors, we clear $30,000 a year. Well, that's about what it would cost to maintain the trail a year.
Okay.
$2,000 a mile, 16 miles long.
Okay.
So we've done the math, and I don't know that we're still in the process of figuring out what percentage should we contribute, and how would that be done. And we have a meeting tomorrow where I'm going to present a proposal as to how to do that.
Wow.
So it's to be fair to everybody, and we think that's part of our mission.
Oh, sure.
And as long as our membership agrees, continues to, contribute their $50, $100 memberships, and as long as the bike ride continues supportive, I don't see why we can't do that. And I've been pretty upfront. I've written about this a number of times in our newsletter, talked about it at the annual dinner, that this is what we're going to do, and support seems to be there. People understand, these things don't maintain themselves. You've got to put money into it, or you end up with a bad-looking piece
Well,
of
not only you have
property.
to put money into it, but you have to put people into it. Somebody has to
That's
manage
right.
the operations.
That's right.
A chair,
Yep.
a treasurer, and
And the fact of the matter is, these folks are professionals. They know how to manage parks. We don't.
right.
That's not our expertise. I mean, I am blown away by Cardinal Greenway doing the whole thing with volunteers.
Right.
But they got a lot of people. We don't have Muncie at our doorstep, or some of the other towns. For us to put on this bike ride with 100 volunteers, that's a big deal.
Sure.
So we never thought we're going to manage this trail.
Well,
There are
no.
people who know how to do it. We can pay them to do it, and they've done a great job. So,
Well, and
why
all-
reinvent the wheel?
And all the towns and counties have lawnmowers, and they have people who can
They do.
cut trees,
Yep.
cut grass, and basically
And
keep.
so we're in partnership with them in that regard. We help pay, and we also do some volunteer things like, when the storm came through 2 years ago, Bob Carrico and I went out with a chainsaw and we cut the trees down because they were blocking the trail.
Sure.
So it's not totally just money. Boy, what the heck is going on? That was my wife. She's wondering where I'm.
Well, I'll
when
tell
I'm
you
coming
what.
home.
We have. Thank you so much for this.
Yeah.